How are these protests in particular affecting the sugar industry there in India?
Basically the protest which the farmers are doing is for a few crops like wheat, paddy, etc., which the government of India procures or the state agencies procure. Whereas in case of sugarcane is procured by the private millers or the millers in the cooperative sector. The government doesn't buy sugarcane. And there is an assured price which the government fixes, which we pay to the farmers. So the protest is not regarding sugarcane or sugar. It is more regarding the other crops. So it is not affecting the sugar industry at all.
All right, but during the whole pandemic, how was the sugar industry affected and how is it doing now?
During the pandemic, we didn't really face much problem because of a couple of issues. First, sugarcane and sugar in India are treated as essential commodities. And when the pandemic came and the lockdown started, it was in the end of March in India. By that time, most of us had stopped our crushing of sugarcane because the season was over. But the movement of sugar, we didn't face much problem. Initially, I would believe, for a couple of weeks, we did face a little problem in interstate movements. Trucks were stopped at certain places. We did face a little bit of problem in moving of inputs. And initially for about 2 to 3 months, since a lot of these large industrial houses which use sugar to make their products like biscuits or the beverage manufacturers, they had shut down their operations. For I think 2 or 3 months, we did face some shortage in demand. But then after June or July, the demand picked up. And by the end of the season, we saw that we could sell almost similar quantities that we did last year. What we also saw that even we saw a drop in the industrial use of sugar because of lockdown there was a higher consumption in the direct household consumption, the tabletop consumption, which compensated for the drop in the demand from the industrial houses. So overall, the Indian sugar industry, I would say, has not been very badly impacted due to the pandemic.
The issue with the sugar industry in India, Abinash, is that there is a glut and that there is also government subsidies. The likes of Australia is crying foul, is taking India to the WTO. A decision is expected in the early months of 2021. Is the industry in India prepared for subsidies to end?
If you really look at the WTO rules, there is a provision under Agreement on Agriculture, and there is a very specific provision there, very specific rule, which allows developing countries like India to give direct export subsidies for its agri-products, which includes sugar, which is in terms of the internal transport charges or the ocean freight or the marketing and promotion charges. And the Indian export subsidy on sugar is totally based on that particular provision under the WTO rules. As per our understanding, we are not in foul or we are not in any kind of against the WTO provisions. Obviously, we'll have to wait for the WTO panel to take a decision. However, there is a second challenge by the Australians and the Brazilians and the Guatemalans saying that the sugarcane pricing system in India is foul of WTO rules. That is something that the Indian government needs to examine and defend there. But from the Indian sugar industry side, we have been requesting the government that let's move towards a system which is followed world over, which is what is called as a revenue sharing formula to determine the sugarcane price instead of the government fixing the sugarcane price in India. So we believe there is a move towards moving towards the international practice of determining the sugarcane price as per the revenue that we earn. So if that happens, then again, we'll not be in foul of the WTO rule.